from $0 a month to $500,000 a month. Um, what actually happened here? And I've been trying to process that over the course of the last number of months as we've had a lot of growth, and we're in our 10-year anniversary is in September. Trying to self-reflect a little bit, look back on the past as we plan towards the future of going from not having a business to $0 a month to a $500,000 a month. And probably by the end of this year, our goal is to hit $1 million month. A couple notes to go into background a little bit here, just to get you caught up on where we're at. So my name is Travis Young. I own and operate 3 game stores in Southern California, and called Kingslayer Games. And I'm going to go through a few baselines here. So I'm 38 years old now. Was 28 when the first store opened. Was really 27 when the online business started rolling. And but before that, so if something happened, in between 0 and 27, I was doing other things, and I had my first child when I was 21. In that time, I was going to university. I was going to Cal Poly Pomona here in Southern California, and when my son was on the way, life changed, and I had to drop out of school and enter the working world really quickly. I jumped into work at Staples. If my staff is watching this video, they're like, "We've heard you tell this story 1,000 times." I was kind of naturally really good at sales and communicating to people. That was the skill I kind of had. I did work at Staples in high school, so I went back there and started working at Staples, where I met my future wife. But at the time, I was working at Staples in sales when my son was on the way. I'm 21 years old, and was really good at sales, really good at selling things and getting commission-based sales, that sort of thing. And quickly grew through the ranks in a couple different sales organizations in business-to-business sales development. So fast forward to 2013-ish. Before I started Kingslayer, I was already an entrepreneur at heart. Like I knew I was going to start a business. I knew I was going to own a company at some point. I was good at sales. I knew I was going to figure this out. So I had started a cell phone repair company back in 2013 when my iPhone broke, and I learned how to fix it. And I was like, this is awesome. And I went and I wanted to see if there was a market for that. So I tested the market on Craigslist at the time to see if I could sell, if I could offer services to repair cell phones. I got my brother-in-law into that business. He and I did that together. I opened a retail store. I don't even know, most of my staff probably don't know this. I opened a retail store selling iPhone repair services for iPads, iPhones, and that sort of thing. And then I was working at Staples in outside sales, went to work for UPS in outside sales. And when I got that job, that was a big promotion, 6-figure sales income, take home car, work from home, the best sales job in 2014 or 13, I guess at the time, 2013, the best sales job that you could dream of. And I was 23 years old, making 6-figure, making good money. I had the best boss. My boss was awesome. And I ended up gifting this really small cell phone repair business to my brother-in-law when my UPS job started to grow. So I get into that, and I'm crushing, annihilating this UPS job. My sales, I was just like, wasn't first in the nation, but I was in the top 15, 10, 20%, and working in this division at UPS. Great. The team was awesome, company's awesome, boss is awesome, and I was bored. Hitting my metrics, hitting my goals, and I was bored. So I do what I do when I get bored. I find more stuff to do, more work to do, and so that's when I started investigating doing like retail arbitrage, doing buy sell trade of video games, anything I can get my hands on to sell on eBay and Amazon. Which quickly led to me finding distributors to sell more goods online out of my apartment. This is 2013, 2014. So the reason I'm telling you a little bit of backstory here is before we get into Kingslayer being $0 and now doing $500,000 a month in revenue, there's a little bit of homework. It wasn't like I just went from no life experience, no income to a store, and then 10 years later the store's successful. It was a lot of failure along the way. I had done before the cell phone repair company, I was selling my services, building computers for people. Was pretty much a failure. Even the cell phone repair business was good in a way, but hard to scale, and taught us a lot. Had to get a business license, having a actual brick and mortar retail store for cell phone repair in 2012, 2013. taught me a lot about getting seller's permits and how to file taxes and how to do all that kind of stuff. So and this I was learning along the way. And in the sales jobs that I had, I was setting up new accounts for shipping companies when I was at UPS, and I was observing and learning about all these startups and entrepreneurial companies, and they're really successful startups that need shipping services because they're successful. So my brain is just like, oh man, I'm just learning constantly. And my territory was Southern California, so my territory was literally San Diego and Orange County, which is where my stores are now. Um, so, I'm kind of building Kingslayer in my mind. I didn't really know it yet, but I was building Kingslayer in my mind while I was going through my general life experience in sales. Sales is a great thing to do. I recommend it highly to anyone that's thinking about opening a game store. If you've been successful in sales, you'll probably do pretty well. So fast forward, we get to this point where the online business is doing well at my apartment. The first iteration of what Kingslayer was still an online business. So my first brick and mortar space for the game store idea wasn't actually a game store idea. It was just an office space to support my online business. It was not, when I signed the lease there, which is a funny story, there was no lease. It was month-to-month handshake deal, $1,000 a month for this 1,000 square feet, $1,000 per foot office space in Fountain Valley, California. Crazy rate, but there's this real old timer that was there that subleased it to me. It was completely a handshake deal, and it was an office space for the online business. There was no plan of doing retail. So when now I give other store owners advice on how to find retail stuff and how to open retail stores, because I've done it 3 times now. But initially, this was not how the way I'm telling people how to do it is not the way that I kind of fell into the business. But you getting into that lease, started the online business, and then the industry changed drastically. I think it was 2014 is when like Asmodee bought the Catan company Mayfield Press. I can't remember. A bunch of the board game companies had kind of acquired each other and made it so that you couldn't sell board games online anymore. And that was like a big part of my online business at that point, had been doing board games. And so the company had to pivot to retail. That was the only option, was like, well, this business now doesn't exist anymore because the industry had basically said, we're going to protect the small mom and pop retail stores. The guys like me, which I was the scummy, evil Empire guy that was selling board games online, apparently, weren't allowed to exist anymore. So I was like, okay, well, either we close up shop or we pivot into a retail business. And so we looked at some options. I was really into comic books at the time, and I thought, why not? We'll make a comic book store. It's really a fake store. It's a front. So we did that, and some of my other videos have the origin story. The reason I'm telling the origin story here in this context is like, I think it does paint a better picture for the 0 to 500K. Because there's some pre-work that goes into just opening a store. The first Kingslayer that opened was called Kingslayer Comics, and it failed miserably in the sense that comics was such a miss. It was such a bad industry to get into in 2015, and still is a bad industry to get into because just it is. But what it did by opening a comic book store and failing, it taught me about customer acquisition. What return you'll get from marketing spend on like Instagram and Facebook ads. So, and it started getting people to come into the door. So by making this fake store with fake business hours to sell real comic books, so that it unlocked the ability for us to sell online, was the reason why we opened the store. But people came in and said, hey, we want to play Magic the Gathering. Can we play Magic the Gathering here? Will you get some tables from the Costco down the street so we can play Magic the Gathering? And I was like, what is Magic the Gathering? And I had some familiarity because I had bought and sold Pokemon cards in junior high. And I remember having some like Magic cards, but I just remember them being like weird. And I remember the card back on the back just looked like kind of unfinished or like really like old school. Had no idea that there were tournaments played or people collecting. And this is like Khans of Tarkir was out at that point, or Fate Reforged, I think, was the set. And then our first set when we opened was Battle for Zendikar. But I'm big at listening to people and getting feedback. And I was like, 10 years younger than I am now, and people were saying, if you put tables and chairs here, we will come and play Magic the Gathering. It's like, okay, let me check this out. We called Wizards, we got set up, and within 30 days of our fake store opening, we held our first pre-release. I look back at the dates, it's actually more like 2.5 weeks from our fake store opening for Kingslayer Comics. We held our first pre-release for Battle for Zendikar. I don't know how Wizards was able to get us pre-release kits that quickly, because because now it takes a lot longer than that. But we were able to get in. We got BFZ. We had a BFZ pre-release. I remember buying a Expedition Scalding Tarn for like $400 or something. Not knowing, I just didn't know my head from my ass at that point when it came to the Magic the Gathering trading card world. I was just learning so quickly and making mistakes left and right, and overvaluing certain opinions and undervaluing others, and just not, Pokemon. We got into Pokemon eventually, started doing weekly Pokemon events at our first address. But like all this like hyper learning for TCG had to happen in a really short period of time because we were already open. Like we had butts in seats at F&M, and I had never had a DCI card, or I didn't know what lands were. Like it's just the amount of knowledge I didn't have was vast. And quickly, within a month or so, I went to my first Grand Prix in San Jose with some of the regulars. My mind was just like I couldn't believe how many people were in one massive space playing the same card game. It was just, until you've been to an event with like a large Grand Prix or maybe like a large Pokemon event or regionals or One Piece event, or until you see how many people are in the room playing cards, like, oh, okay, this is a lot. My understanding of scope and scale was incorrect for this industry, and now I need to readjust. And you're like, and I always talk to the guys at work now about zooming out. Like a lot of times we're in the weeds a little bit too much, and sometimes you got to zoom out and like really observe kind of the macro, and sometimes you got to zoom in, but sometimes you don't zoom at all. But that's a little bit of a preface or prequel to getting to that first month. And really, I had a job, and I kept my job in sales for the first 4 years. So I was working that full time and then also hired employees, and I was heavily subsidizing Kingslayer because Kingslayer was a money pit. I was learning so much and making poor decisions, and we were still a comic book store for that first year and a half, maybe 2 years. So I was buying comic books that weren't selling, and so I heavily subsidized. And so people don't have to make the same mistakes I did, but I was making enough money in my day job, and I would get my quarterly bonus from UPS, and I would just throw that into the business to pay off debt. And keep making it through. And that was Kingslayer Comics in the first year. And there's really 3 points that I want to get to in this video that I think will encompass how I think we went from $0 to 500,000. Now, there's a lot of points. There's a lot of, we could probably do a dozen, but in order to keep the video on the maybe not hour long range, maybe we'll try to keep this thing under 25 minutes. There's really 3 that I think stood out to me when I was coming up with this talk. The first one is employees have a direct relationship to scale. So our doing $0 a month to 500,000 a month, not only the volume of employees that are working for your company, but the quality is so dramatically important. I did, and just for the record, I own all 3 stores outright. There's no ownership split. I built all 3 of these stores by myself. But what I mean by myself is a lot of the contracting work actually wasn't physically me, but I was hiring some of the contractors or signed contractors, and then employing my team to help me with it, who are fantastic. But it was I do have direct experience doing this many times. The Fountain Valley store a couple times, and then our other stores over the course of the last number of years. So this is something I actively do constantly, is build stores, and we're currently building the next upgrade for one of our stores. So but point number 1, the spend on employees and payroll has a direct relationship to scale. And I couldn't have 3 stores and be spending half as much on payroll and still gotten these results. Like, you need that quality level of employees. And if I want to get to $1 million, like we spend right now about $85,000 to $90,000 a month on payroll company wide, which is a lot, an absolute shit ton. And if I want to get to $1 million a month, that's going to have to go up a lot. It's going to have to go to 120, 130. We're going to have to keep spending money hiring more people to process inventory, to do product listings, to do customer service. We have so many events in the evening, so we need more people to help with the customer service side, make sure we're not missing anyone if there's long lines or what have you. So point 1, employee spend and employee count is directly proportionate to sales. Number 2, Survival alone, um, to get to that next breakthrough or that next plateau is huge. There were years and times where it made no sense for us to stay in business, and it was really, really brutal. This is pre-COVID, back when Pokemon was crap and not very good, and we just didn't know how to. There was only 2 card games really. Like we didn't really support Yu-Gi-Oh. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. Magic we supported lots of formats of, and then Pokemon we supported a format. And it just wasn't enough to. It wasn't enough to be worth it. Like we were, like I said, I was subsidizing the store growth with my own income. Um, and then Pokemon Go came out, and all of a sudden, holy crap, people really care about Pokemon again, and oh, they care about all TCGs again because there's this weird factor that happens when like people when TCGs are popular, all TCGs stand to gain from that, and all trading card game stores stand to gain as well. So, number one again, employees and employee spend is directly proportionate to scale. Number two, you're just surviving to get to that next plateau or that next breakthrough. Um, the 3 notable ones in our history in 10 years, Pokemon Go, COVID, and then right now we're in it. We're in a huge, massive Pokemon boom slash bubble slash new plateau that has bled out onto Magic, onto Flesh and Blood, onto Lorcana. Every trading card game is experiencing an amount of scarcity and boom right now because of what's happened since November. The hobby got a lot more popular with TCG Pocket and with Pokemon Pocket card game and the scarcity and then we have economic. Anytime there's really large amounts of economic volatility for whatever reason, the collectible industry, particularly TCG, does well. So each one of those moments, Pokemon Go, COVID, and now I don't know, call it like Liberation Day peak. I don't know what we're gonna call this one. Um, really, the surging sparks boost into Journey Together, and where we're at now has been we're at a new frontier. It's a new normal, and I thought it was maybe a month or two of just kind of a boost, but we're breathing fresh air at the moment right now. So employees, survival, um, and actually I've already said the third one a few times now, but self-subsidizing to survive. I made this deal with myself when I decided to go all in on Kingslayer, which wasn't really until year 4. And I didn't really decide. I got fired from my day job, so I left. I did this like really, I guess you could say, shady thing when I quit my job at UPS to go work for one of my customers. There was nothing illegal about it. It was just kind of like a frowned upon thing, but it was I was trying to off ramp from this job that was really awesome to go work somewhere else that knew about Kingslayer, and we had this arrangement where I was going to be able to work on my main gig while working there. And 6 months later, they terminated me after I had dramatically improved their performance in their company. And that's when I went. That's when I really went full time at Kingslayer, and I was there 80 hours a week instead of 40. Um, and I made this deal with myself. Hey, I'm going to spend this 80 hours a week or whatever it's going to take Kingslayer and grow it as fast as I possibly can. And if I have to sell my soul to the devil in my 20s and 30s so that I can eat in my 40s and live well, 40s and beyond, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to hunker down, and we're just going to make this thing work. And those ages, if you're opening a store later in life or earlier in life, apply it as you will. But I made this commitment to myself that I was going to make this work no matter what. And yeah, I think it's pretty ridiculous, honestly, to look at the revenue numbers and see how we're able to manage it. And it's really difficult because you have to spend a lot of money on product to hit $500,000 a month. You're just spending money. I do almost exclusively all the purchasing. No, it's not fair to say. I do most of the purchasing, and then I have my team manages purchase orders, and Andrew does a fair amount of purchasing for certain vendors as well. But it's a lot of money you got to spend, and if we're gonna hit $1 million a month and keep growing, potentially go to more locations, it's just gonna take really like what I said. Number one, like we got to keep hiring awesome employees to keep scaling. So that's in a nutshell, going from 0 to 500. There's a lot more tidbits and shared learnings along the way, and my plan is to I'm trying to get to a schedule where I'm posting twice a week, and I'm gonna do my best to hit that. Some of these videos are gonna resonate, and some won't. But if I hit my kind of my self goals of having it being having the content be interesting, having it be useful, and having it be fun to talk about, then I think even if the content doesn't necessarily perform the way that I want it to, I'm cool with that. It's fun for me to document our path, our journey, and I'm going to be doing this for another 10 years. So I'm really excited to look back on a video like this and see, like, man, I was when I think back to my brain, and I watched some videos. I unpublished a video on the channel from 2017. I think it was the first, pretty sure it's the first YouTube video I ever made on this channel, and I watched it back, and maybe I'll show a clip of it. Maybe I'll show a clip of it here. What's up, Kingslayers? I watched it back, and it's really hard to watch. And you're like, man, the amount of knowledge and wisdom I didn't have 8 years ago when I made that video. I'm so glad I have that knowledge and wisdom now, but we're learning so quickly. And in 90 days and 6 months, my frame of mind and my skills and that knowledge and wisdom will continue to develop and expand. I'm going to keep learning and keep fighting to be obsessive about learning the next thing that our customers want, and what's going to change the course of our trajectory in the business. So I'm excited to look back on that and document. So yeah, as long as I'm kind of being true to myself on my goals for the content, and documenting it along the way. And if it's interesting and useful, let me know. I want to know what's interesting and useful to you. I've got a few other I have lots of different topics and different types of videos I want to make, but if there's a certain question that you have that came up in the course of this chat, let me know. I'd love to hear what you want to hear about. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate all the love and support. And we'll see you next time. Later.